incredible English learners, and welcome back to Super English Talks. I'm Sarah, and I am absolutely delighted to have you join me today for a truly unique and immersive session of advanced English listening practice. Today, we're embarking on a global journey. A journey that starts with a tiny, inconspicuous seed and culminates in the rich, fragrant cup of coffee that so many of us rely on to start our days, fuel our conversations, and inspire our ideas. This isn't just about a beverage. It's a profound exploration of history, geography, economics, and culture. We're going to dive deep into the global journey of coffee, from farm to cup, and in doing so, we'll hone our C1 level listening skills, expand our vocabulary, and practice the kind of extended comprehension that is essential for true fluency. Whether you're diligently preparing for your Cambridge C1 Advanced C, for a high score in the TOEFL or IELTS, or simply striving to communicate with greater precision and confidence in your professional and academic life, this podcast is perfectly brewed for you. Our goal is to make your listening an active, engaging process. So, as we travel from continent to continent, from farm to roastery, I want you to pay close attention not just to the fascinating facts, but to the structure of my sentences, the specific vocabulary I use, and the way I connect different ideas. This is your opportunity to listen for nuance, infer meaning, and build your listening stamina. So, get comfortable, perhaps with your own favorite brew in hand, and let's begin this extraordinary global odyssey. It's a fascinating story, isn't it? How this simple red cherry becomes this huge worldwide thing. Our plan is to unpack that journey, exploring its path, connecting different cultures, powering economies, and really weaving itself into our history. It's more than just a drink. Absolutely. Think of it as getting the inside story on your favorite brew, right? Okay, so let's get into this journey. And I mean, where else can we start? Right at the beginning, way back in Ethiopia, around the 9th century. That's the legend. Yeah. The story everyone knows involves a goat herd named Kali. Apparently, he noticed his goats got super energetic, like dancing energetic. Dancing goats. After eating these bright red berries from a certain bush. So, Kali, being curious, tried them himself and, well, felt that same buzz. Energetic goats discovering caffeine. You won't forget that origin story. And from those Ethiopian highlands, coffee didn't stay put for long, did it? No, not at all. Its path pretty quickly led across the Red Sea into the Arabian Peninsula. By the 15th century, it was well established in Yemen. Yemen. And that's where Mocha comes in. Exactly. The port city of Mocha became so central to the coffee trade that for ages, the name Mocha basically just meant coffee. It's interesting how places get tied to products like that. And from Yemen, its influence just kept spreading, right? With empires and trade routes. Yeah, it moved through the Ottoman Empire, started making its way into Europe, and then, carried by traders and colonial expansion. It crossed the Atlantic over to the Americas by the 16th century. And it wasn't just the beans traveling, was it? A whole culture grew up around it. Oh, absolutely. Akakana popped up first in the Middle East. They were these lively places for socializing, playing games, listening to music, and talking politics. And then Europe catches on in the 17th century, and they just explode. Totally. You get places like London and Paris with their famous penny universities, right? For the price of a coffee, you could sit and listen to debates. Learn from thinkers. They were real intellectual hubs. They really cemented coffee's role. It wasn't just about waking up, okay? It was fuel for conversation, for ideas, for connection. Which brings us to where it's grown today. It's not just anywhere, is it? It needs specific conditions. It's mostly grown in what we call the coffee belt, that band around the equator between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. That's the one. Over 70 countries in that zone have the right climate, the warmth, the rainfall, the altitude. And within that belt, the diversity is just incredible. That's what gives us all the different flavors we taste. Spot on. And exploring that diversity. Looking at specific locations within the belt really tells the story. Geography is key to what ends up in our cup. Yeah. How does the place itself shape the bean? Well, it's everything. The altitude, the soil type, how much rain it gets, the temperature. All these things profoundly influence the coffee's final character. Okay, let's maybe touch on a few key players. We have to start back in Ethiopia, right? The birthplace. Definitely. Ethiopia still has this incredible genetic diversity of coffee. Yeah. You find unique ancient Arabica varieties like Yirgacheffe. And what's Yirgacheffe known for? Often very bright, complex flavors. People describe them as floral, citrusy, almost tea-like. Sometimes very distinctive. Okay, now compare that to, say, Brazil, the giant. Brazil is just massive in terms of volume. Around 40% of the world's coffee comes from there. We're talking something like 66 million bags this year. Wow! And they're famous for Arabica too. But typically with those nutty, chocolatey notes, often lower acidity. Think Santos beans. Coffee production on an industrial scale, really? And then there's Colombia. Segment 1. From a historical footnote to a global phenomenon. So, we've just touched on the legendary origin story in Ethiopia and its rapid migration across the Red Sea. But let's delve a little deeper into this crucial initial period because it sets the stage for everything that follows. The journey of coffee is a testament to its remarkable adaptability and the human ingenuity that harnessed its invigorating properties. When coffee arrived in the Arabian Peninsula, specifically in Yemen, it wasn't just a new crop. It was a cultural catalyst. Sufi mystics, in particular, were some of the earliest and most fervent adopters. They discovered that consuming the brew allowed them to stay awake during long hours of prayer and contemplation. This was a profoundly practical application that quickly spread. The very name for coffee in Arabic, kahwa, originally referred to a type of wine, suggesting that the initial cultural embrace of coffee saw it as a kind of social and spiritual equivalent to an intoxicating beverage, but without the negative effects. The port city of Mocha, which you and I mentioned, was not just a trading hub. It was a monopolist's dream. The Yemenis held a virtual monopoly on the coffee trade for well over a century. They meticulously guarded their coffee plants and famously sterilized the beans before export to prevent others from growing the crop. This was a sophisticated, if ultimately futile, attempt to maintain their commercial supremacy. The vast profits generated from this trade fueled the local economy and positioned as a central player on the global stage. This historical period is a fascinating case study in how a single commodity can underpin an entire regional economy and exert significant global influence. But as with all monopolies, the desire for others to break it was insatiable. Legend has it that the first viable coffee seeds were smuggled out of Mocha by an Indian pilgrim named Baba Budan in the 17th century. He supposedly strapped 7 coffee seeds to his chest and successfully planted them in the hills of Karnataka, India. While the veracity of this story is debatable, it undeniably marks a pivotal moment in coffee's global expansion. From India, the Dutch, with their vast colonial empire, began to cultivate coffee on a large scale in their colonies, most notably in Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, and in Java, which is where the term Java as a synonym for coffee originated. It's an interesting linguistic artifact. The real explosion, however, occurred with the arrival of coffee in Europe. The first coffee house, or kavahana, opened in Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, in the 15th century. But it was in Venice, Italy, in 1645 that the first European coffee house was established. From there, the concept proliferated with astonishing speed. Within a few decades, every major European city, from London to Paris to Vienna, boasted numerous coffee houses. These establishments were far more than just places to drink a hot beverage. They were vibrant, bustling centers of social, intellectual, and political life. Like taverns or pubs, which were associated with alcohol and often rowdy behavior, coffee houses provided a sober, stimulating environment. They were places where merchants conducted business, where artists shared their latest creations, and, as we mentioned, where great thinkers and philosophers debated the most pressing issues of the day. They were, in a sense, the precursors to our modern-day internet cafes and social media platforms, hubs for the dissemination of information and the free exchange of ideas. In England, the coffee houses of the 17th and 18th centuries were so instrumental in the Enlightenment that they are credited with helping to democratize knowledge and challenge established power structures. They were truly transformative institutions. Listening. Practice tip 1. In this segment, I used several specific numbers and dates. For example, 9th century, 15th century, 1645. For C1 level listening, it's important to not only hear these details, but to understand their significance within the narrative. Your task now is to mentally recall or jot down at least 2 specific dates or numerical facts I mentioned and briefly explain what historical event they correspond to. This practice sharpens your ability to extract and retain key information from an extended narrative.
Segment 2. The Geography of Flavor, Understanding the Coffee Belt and Terroir ** we've traveled through time. Now, let's travel across the globe and delve into the fascinating geography of coffee production. As we touched on earlier, coffee cultivation is confined almost exclusively to a specific band of the globe known as the Coffee Belt. This is the area between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, a region that provides the highly specific climatic and geographical conditions that coffee plants demand. What are those conditions? Well, for the best quality coffee, you need a combination of things: consistent warmth without extreme heat, a significant amount of rainfall, and, critically, high altitude. The altitude is particularly pivotal. Higher elevations, typically above 1,200 meters, are associated with a cooler climate and less oxygen. This slows down the maturation process of the coffee cherry. The slower the cherry ripens, the more time it has to develop complex sugars, which ultimately translates to a more nuanced, flavorful, and acidic cup of coffee. This is why many of the world's most prized coffees, such as those from the Ethiopian highlands or the Colombian Andes, are grown at high altitudes. This brings us to a concept that is absolutely fundamental to understanding coffee flavor, a concept borrowed from the world of wine: terroir. Terroir is a French term that essentially means the taste of the place. It encompasses all the environmental factors that influence the final product. We're talking about the soil composition. Is it volcanic, rich in minerals, or more clay-based? We're considering the microclimate. Is there a daily fog, a specific wind pattern, or a particular amount of sunlight? We're looking at the rainfall, the temperature fluctuations between day and night, and even the specific variety of coffee plant itself. All of these elements coalesce to give a coffee bean its unique and distinctive flavor profile, its character. Let's revisit some of the key players we mentioned earlier through the lens of terroir. Ethiopia. The birthplace of coffee is a prime An example of incredible terroir. The country's diverse highlands, volcanic soil, and ancient, uncatalogued varieties of Arabica coffee plants create an unparalleled genetic diversity. This is why Ethiopian coffees from regions like Sodomo or Yirgacheffe are celebrated for their bright acidity, floral aromas, and notes of jasmine, bergamot, or citrus. They are a direct manifestation of their unique environment. Brazil, in stark contrast, Brazil's vast, relatively flat landscapes and lower altitudes result in a different kind of coffee. Brazil is the undisputed powerhouse of global coffee production, primarily focusing on volume, while still producing high-quality Arabica. The typical Brazilian coffee often has a lower acidity and a flavor profile characterized by nutty, chocolatey notes and a fuller body. Their production methods are often industrialized to meet massive global demand, and the flavor reflects the country's more homogeneous, expansive growing conditions. Colombia has carved out a unique space known for its consistent, high-quality, and balanced beans. The mountainous terrain of the Andes, with its specific altitude and rich volcanic soil, contributes to a coffee that is typically a perfect equilibrium of brightness, body, and aroma. Colombian coffees are renowned for their mellow acidity and a flavor profile that often includes notes of caramel, fruit, and a pleasant sweetness. The country's commitment to quality and the small-scale family farms that dominate the industry have cemented its reputation. Understanding the terroir is crucial for any advanced discussion of coffee. It helps us move beyond simply saying a coffee tastes good and allows us to articulate why it tastes the way it does. It connects the natural world directly to our sensory experience in the cup. This is an essential part of appreciating the complexity and craftsmanship that go into every single bean. Listening practice tip 2. Throughout this segment, I used quite a few technical terms like terroir, Arabica, Robusta, and the coffee belt. For advanced English listening, a key skill is to understand these terms from context, even if you've never heard them before. Your task is to mentally define terroir based on my explanation using your own words. Can you formulate a short, simple definition that captures the essence of the concept? This reinforces your ability to grasp technical or unfamiliar vocabulary from a detailed explanation. Segment 3. The coffee beans transformation from cherry to roasted bean. The journey of the coffee bean is a tale of a remarkable transformation. It doesn't just grow, it undergoes a series of meticulous processes that are absolutely critical to its final flavor. Understanding these stages is fundamental to appreciating the craftsmanship that goes into a high-quality cup of coffee. So, let's break down the journey from a red, ripe coffee cherry to the aromatic roasted bean we all recognize. The first crucial stage is harvesting. Coffee cherries are typically harvested when they are a rich, deep red color, indicating ripeness. There are two primary methods: hand-picking and machine picking. Hand-picking, or selective harvesting, is a labor-intensive but highly effective method. Harvesters carefully select only the ripest cherries from the branch, often making multiple passes over the same tree. This method is used for specialty high-quality coffee, because it ensures a uniform and superior batch. Machine picking is a much faster, more efficient method used on large, flat farms, but it gathers all the cherries at once ripe, unripe, and overripe, which can result in a less consistent and lower quality product. Once the cherries are picked, they must be processed. This is arguably the most impactful stage in determining the coffee's final flavor profile. There are three main processing methods. 1. The washed method. This is the most common method for specialty coffee. The cherries are first pulped to remove the outer skin and flesh, leaving the bean encased in a sticky, sugary layer called mucilage. The beans are then fermented in water to break down this mucilage before being washed clean and laid out to dry. This process gives coffee a clean, bright, and acidic flavor profile, allowing the intrinsic characteristics of the bean itself to shine through. Point 2. The natural method, or dry processing. This is the oldest method and is most common in arid regions like Ethiopia and Brazil. The entire coffee cherry is simply laid out to dry in the sun, often on large patios or raised beds. The fruit skin and mucilage dry onto the bean, and as it dries, the sugars and fruit flavors are absorbed into the bean. This method often results in a coffee with a much fuller body and a more fruit-forward, sometimes even a wine-like or fermented flavor. 3. The honey process, or pulped, natural. This is a hybrid method, originating in Costa Rica. The skin and part of the fruit are removed, but a specific amount of the mucilage is left on the bean to dry. This process creates a coffee that balances the cleanliness of a washed coffee with the sweetness and body of a natural. The flavor can be exceptionally sweet and complex, often with notes of caramel, dried fruit, or vanilla. After processing and drying, the coffee beans are now what's called green coffee. This is the stable, unroasted form in which coffee is shipped worldwide. The final stage is roasting. Roasting is both an art and a science. The green beans are heated at high temperatures, and a series of chemical reactions, most notably the Maillard reaction and caramelization, transform the beans, starches, and acids into aromatic compounds and flavorful oils. The roaster controls the duration and temperature to achieve a specific roast profile. From a light roast that highlights the coffee's origin, characteristics, and acidity, to a dark roast that emphasizes a smoky, bittersweet flavor and a fuller body. This final step is what unlocks the hundreds of volatile flavor compounds and aromas that we associate with coffee. Listening practice tip 3, as I described the different processing methods. I used words that signal a comparison or contrast. For example, in contrast, while, or however. Your challenge here is to listen for these specific transition words that I use to compare the washed, natural, and honey processes. Can you mentally list at least 3 such words or phrases? This ability to track a speaker's comparative language is absolutely vital for understanding complex explanations and is a hallmark of C1 level English listening for professionals.
Segment 4. Economics and Ethics. The Socioeconomic Landscape of Coffee *. The final part of our journey from farm to cup is perhaps the most complex and, in some ways, the most contentious. It's the story of the socioeconomic and ethical landscape of the coffee industry. While we savor the final product, it is crucial to remember that our daily cup of coffee is the result of a vast, global supply chain that is often fraught with economic volatility and ethical challenges. The coffee industry is a monumental global economic engine, estimated to be worth over $450 billion annually. It is a critical source of income for millions of people, particularly in developing nations in the coffee belt. However, the price of coffee is notoriously volatile, subject to unpredictable fluctuations on the global commodities market. This price volatility leaves small-scale farmers, who often have very little leverage in the supply chain, incredibly vulnerable. A sudden drop in the market price can be financially ruinous, making it difficult for them to invest in their farms, provide for their families, or withstand the inevitable hardships of drought or disease. This volatility has, over the past few decades, spurred a powerful movement towards more equitable and sustainable practices. This movement is often characterized by two key approaches: fair trade and direct trade. Fair trade. Certification is a system designed to guarantee that farmers receive a minimum price for their coffee, regardless of the fluctuating market price. This provides a vital economic safety net. Additionally, it often involves a social premium, an extra sum of money that is invested back into the community, funding projects like schools, clean water initiatives, or healthcare. This is a very structured, third-party certified system aimed at ensuring a baseline of fairness and community development. Direct trade. This approach is more boutique and personal. It involves roasters and buyers bypassing the middlemen and purchasing coffee directly from farmers. This fosters a direct relationship and allows for a more transparent supply chain. The price paid to the farmer is often well above the fair trade minimum, and it allows roasters to forge long-term partnerships with producers, ensuring a consistent supply of high-quality beans while giving farmers the financial security and stability to invest in improving their cultivation methods and the quality of their crop. These movements are part of a broader push for sustainability in the coffee industry. Sustainability encompasses not only economic fairness, but also environmental stewardship and social equity. Environmentally, it means promoting farming practices that are less harmful to the ecosystem, such as shade-grown coffee, which preserves biodiversity, or utilizing water-saving processing methods. Socially, it means ensuring safe and fair working conditions for all laborers in the supply chain, from the harvesters to the processors. The modern coffee consumer is increasingly a conscious consumer, concerned not only with the taste and quality of their coffee, but also with its provenance. Where It comes from how it was grown and who benefited from its sale. This shift in consumer awareness is a powerful force for change, compelling roasters and retailers to be more transparent about their sourcing and more committed to ethical practices. It transforms the simple act of drinking coffee into a subtle but significant act of global engagement and social responsibility. The journey of coffee from a small farm to a vast global market is, in many ways, a microcosm of the challenges and opportunities of a truly interconnected world. Listening practice tip 4. In this segment, I used a lot of cause and effect language. To explain complex relationships, for example, this volatility has spurred a movement, or this fosters a direct relationship. For advanced English listening for professionals, understanding these causal links is essential. Your challenge is to mentally identify two cause and effect relationships. I explained regarding the coffee industry and state them in a simple sentence. For example, volatility in the market cause leads to vulnerability for small-scale farmers effect. This trains your brain to connect ideas and understand the logic of a complex argument. Asterisk. Segment 5. The two titans, Arabica versus Robusta. Asterisk. Let's briefly pause our journey to examine the two main species of coffee that dominate the global market. A distinction that is fundamental to both the flavor in our cup and the economics of the industry. These two titans are, of course, Arabica and Robusta. While both are coffee, they are in many ways completely distinct in their characteristics, cultivation, and flavor profiles. Arabica coffea. Arabica is the undisputed king of the specialty coffee world, accounting for roughly 60 to 70% of global production. Arabica plants are typically grown at higher altitudes and require a more delicate, temperate climate. This makes them more susceptible to pests and disease, and consequently, more labor-intensive and costly to cultivate. However, the effort is well worth it. Beans are renowned for their complex, aromatic, and nuanced flavor profiles. They are characterized by a higher acidity, which gives them a bright and vibrant taste and a rich tapestry of flavors that can include notes of fruit, chocolate, nuts, and flowers. They also have a significantly lower caffeine content than their counterpart, which is a major factor for many consumers. The delicate, sweet, and balanced cup that most of us associate with high-quality coffee is almost always an Arabica bean. In stark contrast, we have Robusta coffea, Canephora. As its name implies, Robusta is a much hardier or more robust plant. It can thrive in a wider range of climates, including lower altitudes and warmer temperatures, and is far more resistant to pests and diseases. This makes it considerably easier and cheaper to grow, a fact that is reflected in its economic role. While it accounts for a smaller percentage of the global market, It is a crucial component of many commercial blends, instant coffees, and espresso. The flavor profile of Robusta is very different from Arabica. It is typically described as having a much harsher, more bitter, and earthy flavor, often with a rubbery or woody aftertaste. It is also distinguished by its very high caffeine contents, sometimes double that of Arabica, a thick, full body that contributes to the rich crema on top of espresso shots. While historically seen as an inferior bean, some high-quality Robusta varietals are now being cultivated and used in blends to add body and a different dimension of flavor. The choice between the two is not just a matter of taste. It's an economic reality. The price of Arabica is consistently higher than Robusta due to the difficulties in cultivation and the superior flavor profile. This distinction shapes the entire global market, influencing everything from the investment decisions of large corporations to the daily choices of consumers. Understanding this fundamental difference is a key part of speaking about coffee with genuine knowledge and fluency. It's the difference between discussing flavor in a superficial way and having a deep understanding of the product. From its botanical roots, listening. Practice tip 5. I used several descriptive adjectives to contrast the flavors of Arabica and Robusta. For example, complex, nuanced, harsher, and earthy. Your final challenge is to mentally list at least 5 adjectives I used to describe the flavor profiles of these two coffee species. This helps you to build your advanced vocabulary for describing sensory experiences. A skill that is not just useful for talking about coffee, but for a vast range of descriptive topics in English.
Final words of encouragement and next steps *. What an absolutely incredible and comprehensive journey we've taken today. From the ancient Ethiopian highlands and the dancing goats of a legendary story, all the way to the complex ethical considerations of modern global trade. By exploring the global journey of coffee, from farm to cup, we have not only deepened our appreciation for this remarkable beverage, but, more importantly, we have actively engaged in advanced English listening practice, expanding our vocabulary, and honing our comprehension skills at the C1 level. Remember, the true power of this kind of practice lies in your active engagement. The more you listen with purpose, the more you will learn. To truly internalize all the information, the vocabulary, and the communication strategies we've covered today, I strongly encourage you to listen to this audio again. With each listen, focus on a different aspect. Listen once just for the story and the main ideas. Listen a second time, specifically to identify the transition words I used to connect segments and ideas. Listen a third time with a notebook, jotting down any new vocabulary words or collocations that you find interesting or useful. And finally, practice shadowing my speech. Repeat the phrases and sentences after me, focusing on matching my pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. This is a phenomenal way to improve your own speaking fluency. Your dedication to mastering English is truly inspiring. and it's my greatest pleasure to be a part of your journey here on Super English Talks. If you found this session to be as insightful and enjoyable as I did, please do me a huge favor and show your appreciation with a thumbs up. It helps the channel grow and reach more ambitious learners like you. And of course, if you have a friend, a colleague, or a study partner who is also working hard on their English, please share this video with them. Collaborative learning is powerful, and it would be wonderful to grow our community of advanced English speakers together, and a huge thank you to all of you who have already subscribed to Super English Talks. If you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our future lessons. I am constantly working to create content that is not only educational, but also truly engaging and relevant to your learning goals. I would love to hear from you. What was the most interesting part of the global coffee journey for you? Did you learn a new word or a new concept that you'd like to share? Leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Your feedback is absolutely invaluable in helping me shape future episodes. Until our next captivating discussion, keep listening actively, keep learning relentlessly, and keep communicating with confidence and curiosity. See you all very soon.